Well, good afternoon, you wonderful lot. As always, the first thing is welcome to the live stream. The second thing is if you can just let me know if everything looks okay, sounds okay, you can hear me, you can see me, all those kinds of good things, that would be much appreciated. And then we can crack on with the usual, the welcomes, and go through some of the things I want to cover today. But as always, before we do start, just remember if you've got a question for me during the live stream, if you just do hashtag Q for question, just means that I can easily find those without any problem whatsoever. And it makes it a little bit easy then to go and answer the questions as they come up in the chat on the live stream. So does everything look and sound okay? If you could let me know, that would be absolutely fantastic. I'm hoping it is all good. And like I say, then we can take a look and move on to some of the topics I want to talk about today. And then we'll take a quick look who's in the chat, say hello. And again, if you are new, you haven't been on the live stream before, all you need to do is hashtag new just to let us know. That would be fantastic. Thank you very much, George. Let me know. Cool. Sounds okay. Okay. Right. So let's do a couple of welcomes and thank yous for joining in today on the live stream. And yeah, video and audio. Okay, thank you very much, Ronald. That's much appreciated. Okay, who do we have in? John Fairest, always good to see you. Phil in from Spiderweb Design. Thanks for joining in today. Good to see you in here. MDN, thanks for joining in as well. Rich, hope the train ride to London goes okay and you do keep your signal so you can keep in touch and what's going on. Sparakash, thank you for joining in. Dave, good to see you in as well. Thanks for joining in, even if it is only for a short while. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Artif, always a pleasure. Hope you're doing well. Hope you are in a different house today and you finish polishing 3 of my cars. That'd be fantastic if you have. Thank you very much. Els, always a pleasure to see you in. Team Keely, I hope I said that correctly. Thanks for joining in. Ronald, thanks for joining in as well. Nicholas, good to see you around here as well today. CA Web Designer Digital Services in from Bangkok. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for letting me know the sound is all good. Dave, George, always a pleasure. Branislav, good to see you in as well. And I think I've got everyone. Faberon, good to see you as well. Michael Schmidt, good to see you. Steve Waters, Ashraf, thanks for joining in. Alexi and Robert so far. So, like I say, if you are new around here, just do hashtag new. As we can see, Branislav is new, so thank you very much for joining in. Hope you'll enjoy it and you'll come back for the next one next week. Itashi, thank you in from Albania. And Alexi, again, someone else that's new, so thanks for joining in. Again, like I say, hope you do enjoy the live streams. It's a nice way of me being able to talk to you guys, answer some questions, talk about some things that I'm interested in talking about. We can have a bit of a discussion going on. And like I say, if you are new, hashtag Q. If you've got a question for me, it means it's easier for me to find things out and spot those questions so I can answer as many as possible in the hour that I like to keep these live streams running for. Okay, Greg, thanks for joining in, and hope Dublin's a little bit drier than it is in Wales today because it is absolutely bucketing it down here. Anyway, so like I say, thanks for joining in. If you do enjoy it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It's always appreciated. It does help YouTube know that you enjoy the live streams and help spread the word out there so more people can join in every single week. Alexi in from Texas. I'm pretty sure it's probably a little bit warmer over there than it is here in Wales right now. Patrick Killian, thank you for joining in as well. Okay, so first of all, I want to just sort of put the question out there. I put a question up on Facebook and Twitter today that if you've come across any plugins that you use every single day or use on your websites, and they're just little gems that you've come across, not the sort of the well-known things that everybody kind of knows about, your typical SEO plugins, your typical sort of security plugin things, those quirky little unique plugins that maybe do one job or they do a couple of little things, they do it well, and that's all they do. Let me know either in the comment section as we go through on the live stream. If you're watching this on the replay, just drop the comment inside there as well. Or if you don't have the time to do it today and you are part of the Facebook group or you follow me on Twitter, by all means, just get involved with the threads on there and drop in the suggestions you have. And then hopefully I'll come across a handful of these that I think are super useful little plugins, tools, those kinds of things. And they'll be included in future videos. Because I've got a couple that I've already seen that I think they are really useful little plugins. But there are so many out there, as we know. Over 50,000 plugins available on the repository right now, maybe more than that now. It's impossible to sort of find all those little gems. So it's great where you guys get involved. You let me know little plugins and things you've come across, and I can take a look at them. And then hopefully I can spread the word a little bit farther and wider than they may normally get by people not knowing about them. So like I said, if you've got any, you can either drop them in the live chat right now, drop them in on the replay in the comment section, or get involved, like I say, on the WPTuts Twitter account or X account, or just join up to the Facebook group if you're not a member already and join in with nearly 14,000 other WordPress related peeps that want to be kept up to date. Anyway, that's the first thing I wanted to cover. So please do let me know. Edward, thanks for joining in. You're the Dreamer, not a problem at all. Thanks for joining in. Beatrice, we've got Darren in as well, and Mark Harris, thanks for joining in. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I hope it's a little bit drier and warmer than it is wherever you are than where it is right now in where I am. It's biddling down. Okay, so we'll be interested in your views on the rank maths issues that appeared on some outlets. Right, I'm assuming, John, you're talking about the issue with security and things like that, which is something that I want to come on to today as part of this live stream. I kind of got some notes that I want to sort of pick up on, that I want to sort of just use as the basis. But one of the things that I sort of picked up is the current state of WordPress and the current state of what's going on in it, because we know that a couple of weeks ago that there was the security issue with Bricks, then there's security issue with Quickly, security issue with Elementor, and now we've got security issues with Rank Math and several other. And I think Solid Security released their latest email with all the security updates, and there's well over 100 there that were, you need to make sure you've updated. So whatever you're doing, as I've always said, make sure you've got something in place to monitor, even if it's just subscribing to like PatchStack or Solid WP, subscribing to their free email, because that will send out, I think it's every week, if there are vulnerabilities and so on when it comes to WordPress. And as Phil has kind of alluded to here, the RM was an authenticated XSS, wasn't it? Only an issue if you had bad user security. I agree, but the problem with this is that the core Gutenberg has that XSS vulnerability. It has had it for quite some time, and they just don't seem to want to patch it. I mean, let me just see if I can open up my PatchStack account a second and just show you what I'm talking about. It's one of those things that my OCD just gets really annoyed at the fact that I've got these error messages in my PatchStack account that I can't do anything about because, well, Gutenberg and what have you will not update it. They will not update the plugin and deal with this security issue. Let me just get my face to sort of show up on the thing. There you go. On my iPad. Just bear with me a second. It's unauthenticated, that's the issue. Yeah, it's not that massive a deal in some instances, but it's still frustrating and annoying that it's even there. So if I just open up my PatchStack account, you can see these are some test sites and things that I'm using, also some live sites and things that show you've got this SSRF, server-side request forgery issue when it comes to core WordPress, which is super annoying that we've even got that there and they're just not addressing it. And it's been there for quite some time. You know, if they're aware of it, they've acknowledged it, why haven't they not fixed it? And I think this is something that really needs to be addressed, is we need to have this, if there's any kind of security issue, no matter how minor it is, when you've got something that's powering over 40% of the internet, and I think I read last night, WordPress powers something like 835 million websites. That's 835 million websites that have potential security issues if the right conditions are in place for this SSRF issue to be exploited. And that's a concern. We need to make sure that we've got these kinds of things patched, especially when you've got something as prevalent as WordPress. I just don't understand why they're not addressing this, correcting it, and just dealing with the issue there. Maybe spend a little less time, forcing new features that people don't want inside Gutenberg and what have you, and spend it on some things that actually are more of a priority. But anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on that side of things. But I think this XSS security issue is affecting a lot of WordPress themes and plugins. I mean, Rank Math was one. Astra was affected very, very recently in the last few days. This is a concern that if this is so prevalent, then things need to be done. Things need to be changed. People need to be more proactive. Wherever this comes from, and I know you can say it's not that much of an issue because you need to have administrator rights to get into it. And okay, that is That is fair enough. But if someone had a master key to your house, that let's just say the people that built your house, they had a master key to your house, and they had a master key to everybody's house, but they would never use it. I mean, of course they wouldn't. Would you feel comfortable knowing that they've got this master key that at any time they could just get in if they wanted to? And this is kind of what we're talking about. WordPress is like that owner, or the company that built your house, having this little key that gives access to it, but they probably won't use it. But what if someone broke into the office and they stole those keys? You know, much the same as this XSS issue where you need to have administrator rights. Well, let's say you get a compromised server that has a bunch of, WordPress sites on it, and the dodgy people get access to your database, find out the information to do with logging into your accounts or whatever method they actually use to get access to it. Well, that could be something that could be very easily exploited then by the right kinds of people. By that I mean the wrong kinds of people. But it should be dealt with. It really should be dealt with. Like I say, I've been using PatchStack now for probably the last 3 months with a fully paid account, and all of that time, that security issue has been there. And from what I've read and what I've seen, they're a lot longer than that's actually been part of WordPress and Gutenberg and so on. So it's just something that I think really needs to be dealt with. Phil brings up another good thing as well, and this kind of has been brought home to me today, where people have been sort of submitting ideas for plugins and things. Some of the little cool plugins are 4 or 5 years out of date, and they're still available on the WordPress repository. Now, at some point, this needs to be cleaned up. Sure, these plugins may still technically work, but how many of these plugins or themes that have been abandoned may have security issues that you don't see? And just because they work with the current version of WordPress, but they haven't been updated for X number of years, how much of an issue could that actually still be? It's something worth bearing in mind when you're looking at these older plugins, because I've been sort of toying with it. There's one sort of sent over today, which I thought was wicked. And you just literally install it. It goes through and it deletes the sort of useless junk that you have as part of WordPress, like the hello and the sort of Akismet plugin and so on. It sets the, the permalink to the correct permalink that most of us use. It does a bunch of little things. Then it actually deactivates itself. And I thought, what a nifty little plugin. Hasn't been updated for 4 years. And I'm gutted by that, because that's a plugin that has a lot of really good use cases. Imagine you use this you have this as part of your sort of a site that you set up. You automatically install that plugin as part of your sort of setup kind of thing. What a nifty little way to do all these little bits and pieces that may only take 5 or 10 minutes to go through and do them, but you still have to do them, and they're kind of boring to do, like changing the uncategorized to blog, different things like that. But it's multiple years old, and therefore you kind of have to worry, is this something that could potentially have an issue if it's not updated now or in the future? And it's one of the things that there's lots of these little plugins out there, and I wish someone would see the relevance of them and see the usability and why they're such a useful little utility, should we say, and take on board developing them further, actually support them and so on. So I can imagine there's probably a ton of really nifty little plugins that are on the WordPress repository. They've been abandoned, but no one's even considered doing anything with them, which is a shame. It'd be cool if they could sort of be moved on to other developers who could take on board and then, keep developing them. Phil, you should do a video on WP CLI. There's so many things you can do. It usually needs a plugin. It's my go-to. Spend my life in there. Maybe we need to book a call in, Phil, and you can show me some of the things you can do with the CLI and give me an idea of what could be done with it, because I'm always interested in seeing how you can streamline your whole WordPress process, the different things that we do every single day. Lots of things are boring like that. This is where your blueprint websites come in, why they're such a useful little thing that you can have blueprint websites for various different setups. I mean, I've got one for GeneratePress and GenerateBlocks. I've got a Bricks one. There's a vanilla Bricks, so it doesn't have anything other than just the core plugins I need. And then I've got another one then that's set up for Brixies, for example, or any of the other sort of wireframe collections you've got. So many different ways you can set these things up, and they're a time saver. And then there's lots of other things you could do to streamline your whole process. I was watching a video yesterday, I think it was, about systemizing your web design side of things. And this isn't sort of like for everybody, but it was quite a useful thing. And I might put a video together myself, my own sort of spin on it, a different take on how you could do it. But effectively, the whole concept behind it was you had, let's just say you chose an industry, a niche. Like for me, I used to work a lot with businesses to do with accommodation, sort of tourism and things like that. So they all have very similar needs, whether they've sort of like got a B&B or whether you've got a hotel. The general web design needs are fundamentally the same. You know, your online booking, information about the different rooms and availability for the different things like that. Well, if you took a niche like that, you could very easily say, well, I'll just target the B&Bs, or I'll target the sort of like accommodation for groups and things, then create a templatized setup that could just simply be customized in various different ways using wireframes, for example. So you've got a set of different wireframes, say 5 different headings and hero sections and things like that. And you could build that out. So, there's lots of things I think we can do as designers to streamline our overall process and, make us more effective, make us more efficient, make us more money potentially, which is always a good thing. So, yeah, let me know if this is something you'd be interested in me putting together, spinning it from a sort of WordPress point of view, where this was a bit more sort of generic about, web design in general and not specific to like WordPress and so on. Another thing I'm kind of thinking of taking a look at, and again, please do let me know if this is of interest, in the chat today, and also, like I say, if you're watching on replay or any of the social networks I'm kind of using. I want to take a look outside of WordPress. There are a lot of different platforms out there. We've got, the obvious one is like Webflow, for example. And I think most of us probably know enough about Webflow to make, an informed decision on whether you think it's a good platform to work with. But there's also other things. I mean, we've got Wix and Squarespace. Now, let's forget the traditional Wix, for example. Choose a template, beginner's level, change a couple of bits and pieces, and that's literally, the site is all done for you. I'm talking about I think it's the Wix Studio, which is more akin, from my understanding, to things like Webflow. Maybe not to the same level as that, but there are a lot of other tools out there that move away from WordPress and the inherent issues we have with WordPress. So I'm thinking of exploring some of those, not creating a ton of content on them, but just looking at them from a WordPress user's point of view and see, what do I think are good? What do I think are bad? What would I take a look at if I was going to use those? What kind of client would I look at? Is this something you think would be interesting to take a look at the alternative options out there, just so it helps you, if you've got a client that you think actually WordPress is probably a bit overkill, or maybe it's not the right way of going about it, or they wouldn't handle, they don't want a maintenance plan, they don't want to handle the updates themselves, so where do we go with this? There's lots of different use cases and scenarios where not using WordPress is a better option, e-commerce and things like that. Let me know. Let me know if this is something that interests you, because I'm toying with the idea. I'm sort of running a few different ideas around in my head, and I have done for quite a while. So I'm just kind of like looking at the validity of doing something like that. So please do let me know. Like I say, whether you let me know now in the chat or whether you let me know on replay or whatever else, I just find it useful if you let me know. Now, if you are enjoying the live stream today and being part of the conversation, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, because it just helps YouTube know that you like this kind of content and shares it out with more and more people. Okay, so let's take a quick look at some of the things on here. Right. Beatrice, did you have any experience in creating WordPress plugins with code WP? And if so, do you intend to create a tutorial for beginners? How to protect oneself from security issues, plus it saves money. Come to the dark side, Paul. Yeah, thanks, Sam. Now, speaking of Sam, if anybody doesn't know Sam, and I'll come back to Beatrice's question in a moment. Sam has a fantastic YouTube channel. Go and check him out. Very much on Webflow, but also looks at other things like Elementor and bricks and things like that. So go and check Sam's channel out. He's doing a fantastic job. Got a great course on Webflow as well if you want to take a look at moving over to Webflow, or maybe just seeing what kind of things it offers. Be sure to check out Sam's channel. Doing a fantastic job. And it's nice to have another Brit doing this kind of thing as well, which is always a positive. Anyway, back to Beatrice. So, do I have any experience of creating tutorials for beginners with regards to using like code WP and things like that? I don't know about creating tutorials on creating plugins, because I think the better way of handling most of this is to use things like like a code snippets plugin to test everything out, make sure it's all working. And then most of the time you can take that code and you can move it over, put it into your functions PHP file, and then you remove the reliance and any potential issues, whether you agree or disagree with them, to storing that information in the database and making it accessible via plugins and so on. Will I be taking a look at doing something like that? I have started taking a little look at it, but I think if you are interested in that side of things, I would definitely recommend checking out Imran's channel. That's Web Squadron on on YouTube, because he's doing an awful lot with regards to working with code snippets and not just like little code snippets. We're talking about, getting much bigger code snippets, more complex, comprehensive, maybe even combining multiple little snippets to create what would effectively end up being probably a plugin with multiple different parts to it. Go and check out Web Squadron. But obviously, it's one of those things that if enough people are interested, I'll take a look at something like this myself. But yeah, Imran's doing a great job. And Mark Harris, if he's still in here as well, has also been doing a lot with it when it comes to using AI, tools like Code WP, for example, using AI tools to be able to create these code snippets that have a lot of different use cases, like I say, which we would generally tend to work with a plugin specifically to do that. If you look at a lot of WooCommerce plugins, they only do one little thing, but they bundle it as a plugin. And I think this is the key thing. It's like a lot of the times that plugin, which needs to be maintained and updated and and those kinds of things, could easily be moved over into a code snippet because it could just be a really simple little function, but they bundled it into a plugin to make sharing it around easier. But I think with tools like code snippets, fluent snippets and things like that, you could easily use tools like that and get exactly the same job without having to then maintain multiple different plugins to do the same kind of thing. No problem, Mark. Like I say, I think, you guys are doing a lot of stuff when it comes to code snippets and building those things out. And speaking of Imran, this is the key. I think we've had a reliance upon plugins to do a lot of very simple things. And I think the ability to be able to move those over to a simple code snippet and then not have to maintain maybe half a dozen different plugins is a great way of doing it. Plus the fact, like I say, Mark is coming up with some really interesting kind of ways of combining, tools like ChatGPT, the AI side of things, with problems that we have. I mean, I've used it. There's different things that I would use a plugin for. And I think, actually, let's just go to ChatGPT. Let's get that to sort of create a function for me and take a look at what does it do? What fundamentally, how complex is this? If it ends up being, pages and pages and pages of code, I would probably look at a plugin or a plugin suite that would do the same kind of thing. However, if it's a really simple thing, I don't see the need to have a plugin to do it when you could just literally put that into your functions PHP file and have exactly the same effect without the reliance upon maintaining and managing those plugins. It's another way of looking at it. Hopefully that answers the question anyway. Okay, I did see a couple of questions up here at the moment. Sam, not a problem at all, my pleasure, good man. And like I say, thanks for joining the live stream today and keep doing what you're doing, because I think the more people we have creating great content, not just for WordPress, about web design business in general, about the different tools like Webflow, different platforms we have out there. It's a really rich and diverse ecosystem that we have when it comes to building websites, building businesses, all those kinds of things that we, as freelancers, as small agencies, or even bigger agencies, not everybody knows these things to start off with. So I think people like Sam, people like Imran, there's so many great creators out there that are putting so much effort and time into providing amazing resources for zero cost to you. These are things that years ago would have been gate-kept, or you would have had to buy a course to get this information. You've got people like Sam, Imran, and so on, putting this information out there for zero cost. And I think, like I say, these are the kinds of things that need to be applauded and supported by all of us. We need to take the time to be involved in live streams, to comment and feedback on other people's videos, to become part of their communities and share that information, help them. I get loads and loads of value from the community that I've got, WPTuts community, the Twitter account that I've got, X account, but also being part of other people's communities, taking a look at the Bricks community, the Web Squadron community, Elementor community, those kinds of things. Lots of the ideas that I get, lots of the problems that I look at solving when it comes to creating tutorials, a lot of times come from those different places. And I think, like I say, we've got a really rich and diverse ecosystem, and I think we should be incredibly proud of the fact that we are building this up as a community. I won't go into the toxic side of things. Imran did a great video on this the other day, which I would recommend taking a look at, with the toxicity that is surrounding certain aspects of the WordPress community. Maybe small pockets of it, but it's there, which I would recommend checking out. So go and check out Imran's channel, Web Squadron, on YouTube, and have a look at the video he released on toxicity. Very interesting. And there were a couple of points that I wanted to bring up from that, but I forgot them now, so we won't go into that. Anyway, like I say, 88 people in right now, 35 thumbs up. Come on, you can do better than that. Let's have a few more thumbs up and tell YouTube that you like this kind of stuff. Richard, a sidestep from WordPress, but do you want to discuss the affinity acquisition by Canva? No. I think I've probably covered that a lot in the last couple of days where I've talked about it. Excuse me. For anybody that doesn't know, if you are an affinity software user, whether it's Affinity Designer, Publisher, or Photo, they've been acquired by Canva, and the concern that a lot of people, myself included, have is how will that pan out? Will it end up being a subscription-based model, which is what we've got with Canva? And if it is, do we think that's a good thing? So we'll just leave it there. Please do drop your comments in the comment section if you want to get involved with that thing. Okay. Aiden, good day. Good day to you, sir. Sorely missing online a nice Bricks WooCommerce shop tutorial. In your opinion, is Bricks good to go with WooCommerce? From my earlier experience, yes, I do think it's perfectly fine to work with WooCommerce. I don't really do a lot of WooCommerce stuff because I don't really like WooCommerce, if I'm honest. Will I create a tutorial on using it? Maybe. I mean, if enough people were interested in it, then obviously I would create that content. But I only really looked at Bricks to build out WooCommerce online stores when they released the sort of initial integration with it, should we say. So I took a brief look at how you could create the templates, and I think I created a video on it. And I think I've created videos at least briefly covering upon the various, or touching upon the various different things you can do, like, creating the My Account section and stuff like that. And I created a custom My Account video a couple of weeks back that was a nice way of making it a little bit more branded and unique and so on. But is it good to go with WooCommerce? Yeah, it does what you needed to do, which is to be able to customize the different options. I would have recommended a plugin to do with expanding what Bricks can do with WooCommerce, but there's been a little bit of a hoo-ha with that recently, so I'll let that die down and see what happens there, because unfortunately, the way the developer handled that side of things didn't really do their reputation much good, and the sad thing was a lot of people really love that particular product because of what it does to WooCommerce with Bricks, how it opens up a lot of what you can do. So yeah, I'll wait and see how the dust settles and where everything lies afterwards to see how that's been handled. Is it worth taking a lifetime license for Bricks Builder now, considering how Oxygen isn't focused as it was before? Well, Bricks has nothing to do with Oxygen or the development team, so I wouldn't kind of put those two in the same vicinity. Do I think it's worth buying it? Absolutely. We can take a look at a couple of things. Yes, there was the issue with the security a few weeks back, but it was addressed and handled very, very well. And I think, if anything, the last couple of weeks have opened our eyes to the fact that it's not specific to tools like, Bricks or Quickly or Astra or Elementor or things like that. It's a much broader picture of what's going on when it comes to the security side of things that's affecting a lot more companies, big companies with very, very big products. Consider Astra the #1 WordPress theme and has been for quite some time. That's just got a security issue. I'm pretty sure it's been patched, but it was still there. So we just need to be mindful of the fact that, unfortunately, with a diverse ecosystem that is open to expansion through plugins and themes and things like that, there's always the potential for security issues, unlike where you've got more closed architecture where, like, for example, like Webflow, where they are in full control of every aspect of the entire design chain, the design, the hosting, everything else that goes with it. So they've got more control, less moving parts. The easiest way to kind of consider it is look at a Windows PC where you can put 50 different video cards in there. You can put any combination of anything, so it makes it incredibly difficult to have full control, as opposed to a closed ecosystem like Apple, where they have full control of software, hardware, and everything else in between. But I would say absolutely is worth it, because it's a completely different thing to Oxygen, completely different people behind it with a completely different business mentality. So if you were looking to put your money into it, I would say go for it. I don't think it'd be a bad idea at all. Okay. Especially the subway bit in the video. Yeah, go and watch Imran's video, like I say, about the toxicity in the community, and I think it'd be interesting. Okay, let's have a little look what else we've got on here. WooCommerce is a bloated mess. I hate WooCommerce, I've got to be honest. I don't think there is a preferred alternative to WooCommerce. I think I would probably, like I said, I think a couple of weeks back, unless I'm dealing with something with maybe a small number of products where I think WooCommerce becomes manageable. If I was looking for bigger than that, I would be looking at alternatives that are dedicated e-commerce software. I can't say Magento, but you've got Magento type software, you've got OpenCart and things like that. I think they're probably better because they're ultimately specifically built to handle e-commerce, and they don't have the overhead of sitting on top of WordPress at the same time. So I think they can be a little bit leaner than anything. Or to put it another way, WooCommerce is a disjointed piece of arse. That has got to be fair play. That has got to be one of the best ways of describing a piece of software that I've heard in quite some time. So I think the award for best comment so far goes to Phil from Spiderweb for his WooCommerce is a disjointed piece of arse. That should be on your tombstone. In many, many years' time. Just so we got that out there. Tech with Millie. No problem at all. Thanks very much. I'm glad you appreciate them. Video on deactivating plugins per page to increase speed. I think your best way to look at something like that is to be taking a look at something like Perf Matters, or one of those sort of tools that allow you to control what scripts are loaded in on a page-by-page basis, as well as globally, because they can make a big difference, especially if you are using something like WooCommerce, where WooCommerce loads in everything, or it did, I'm sure it pretty still does as well, everything on every single page, whether you've got WooCommerce elements on there or not. So that's where tools like that. But I would say take a look at Perf Matters. And if you want to see what all the options do, I would recommend taking a look at the admin bar, because Kyle over at the admin bar has done 2, if not 3 videos with a developer behind Perf Matters, where they've gone through every single setting option and what it does and why you should use it and when you should use it and so on. So it's a really informative video that'll help you understand how to get the most out of that as a tool. And I'm sure part of it is going to be showing you how you can enable and disable scripts on a page-by-page, post-by-post basis. That's what I would probably look at going first of all and taking a look there. What have we got? Greg. Toxicity can be subtle. For example, the uproar at the time of the race of breakdance and how Lewis handled it to create toxicity around breakdance, which is a shame because it's an excellent builder. And I think this is a very important thing. The way that was handled, for better or for worse, has really annoyed a lot of people that probably would have made the transition from something like Oxygen over to breakdance, but because of the way it was handled, just didn't sit right with them, and therefore they've kind of boycotted that product. And like you say, breakdance, when I tested it out originally, it was an interesting product. It was doing a lot of interesting things, but I know myself, I know Imran, and some other people I've spoken to as well, just don't really want to get involved with it. There's already people out there creating content on it, like Cracker, Design with Cracker and things like that. So it's not like it's not being covered by other creators, other content creators. But like I say, for me, it's not one that I'd be interested in covering anytime soon. But like I say, that's not to discredit what it does or anything else. For me, a big part of when I work with companies or if I work with products, and I'm not talking about it on a paid basis, I'd just be talking about, products in general. It's not just the product. It has to be, if I know a bit more about the company, it has to be about the company and their ethos and things like that. And that one hasn't sat well with me. So it's part of the reason why I don't really cover it. Like I say, that's not to undermine the tool. And, some people love the way that was handled and other things like that. And that's fine. And I'm not here to badmouth anything they're doing. It's entirely fine. Just like I say, for me and my channel, it's not something I'm really interested in at this point in time. Anyway, probably just, waffled on a bit, something completely different there, but hey. Okay. Darren, I run Woo booking on 2 client sites, utter pain, so many Woo add-ons to make the scenarios work, which kind of leads me on to the next thing I wanted to talk about as well. So thank you, Darren, for a nice little segue for me, because it kind of is involving WooCommerce. And let me just get my little notes up a second. Price increases on products with monopolies, which is effectively what I'm talking about when it comes to WooCommerce. Because when WooCommerce was taken over by Automatic, I don't know if anyone can remember this, you used to have WooCommerce official add-ons, and you'd have 1 license and like 5 licenses, I think it was. And your 1 license would be, let's just say, $49, and your 5 licenses would be like $149. And then when you renewed, you got, I think it was like 50% discount on your renewals. Well, once Automatic took over WooCommerce, they wiped all of that out. And every year you paid the same full amount. There was no renewal discounts, which I think sucked. And now they put the prices up on those plugins as well. So they've kind of got a monopoly on a lot of those plugins because they are official WooCommerce plugins. And I think this is something that I don't like. I don't like the monopolies. I think when we talked about like North Commerce, for example, and we talked about SureCart, even though SureCart is more digital products, I know, we really need to have more competition in certain key areas when it comes to WordPress. WooCommerce is absolutely one of them. We need a well-designed, lightweight, and not a rip-you-off business model to help open up the possibilities of what you can do when it comes to e-commerce. WooCommerce, while it has got better over the years, it's still a behemoth of slowdown and clunkiness, and the dashboard could be a pain to work with. And yes, it's better now than it was, but it's still not great. But like I say, I don't know the fact they've got a monopoly on their add-ons, and they wiped all that out several years ago, and now they're bumping the prices up as well. And I say a lot of the time, these are not particularly complex plugins. They are relatively simplistic plugins, but just kind of annoying. And I think this is kind of something that I wanted to sort of come on to. Thanks, Mark. Astra has been patched. I thought it would have been. I think we need to sort of be mindful. I mean, some people say, the cost of WordPress plugins is too cheap. So for example, like you look at like bricks should be more expensive, and this builder should be more expensive. So when you buy a CSS framework that's more expensive than the actual builder itself, then the perceived value of said product is higher, and so on. I think we have to be realistic about what's going on here. In some cases, I do agree there are some products out there that absolutely are too cheap for what they do. But on the flip side, there are some products out there that are stupidly expensive for what they do. I can't say so much these days with form plugins because they are now a lot more complex than they used to be. However, you go back a few years ago, and the amount of money some places were charging for a form plugin that wasn't that much more powerful than a basic free plugin. You weren't having all these sort of calculation things in there with conditional logic and the ability to have step-by-step and all the various different kind of form features we have in these more feature-rich plugins that we are kind of accustomed to now. But, you kind of have to ask yourself, it does one single job. How can a form plugin be more expensive than something like Bricks or Elementor or something like that allows you to build the entire site, but this does one small portion of that? I kind of feel like there's a little bit of a strange disconnect there with some things. Excuse my bottle clicking. Nicholas, what do we have to say this to? Honestly, the quality of all those plugins is very questionable. The Woo market is actually really bad when it comes to quality of code. Most of them are really outdated and bulky. Exactly, and this is why I think a lot of people turn to third-party plugins that do similar or the same job at a lower price, and ultimately maybe even better, more sort of more well-optimized code. They work better with the actual WooCommerce platform and so on. But I just think there has to be some kind of basis of common sense. And it kind of also leads me on to the pricing structure that I understand why they do it, but I find it counterintuitive. And I think we talked about this before. It's like you have a single license for a product at $49. And I'm not talking about like big powerful products. I'm talking about, smaller products. Like one license is $49, then 5 licenses is $99, and then 1,000 licenses is $149. It's like, I understand the whole point is to push people up to that for the perceived extra value you get from spending $149 for, 1,000 websites or 1,000 whatevers. But not everybody, A, needs that, but B, you price your individual license at, let's just say, 1/3 of 1,000 licenses. What do you get? You get people thinking, I'm not going to spend $49 on it because I want to try it out and find out, does it do the job I want it to do? If it does, then I'll pay more. So to me, it makes more sense that your entry-level individual license, which, if it's a good product, people will generally stick with that product and they'll upgrade to further licenses, make it $29. You probably sell more because people will be more interested in taking that risk of thinking, okay, I think this is going to do what I want to do. It's got a 30-day money-back guarantee as well, for example, and it's $29. It's worth a punt, Whereas at $49, it makes it a different proposition, which I kind of feel like is a bit, I don't know, it just seems a bit silly. And the other thing, free plugins. I'm going off on a tangent now. Free plugins. Free plugins, I can imagine, are one of the biggest. Let's just say I'm talking about a free plugin when there's a free plugin and paid versions. So if we use Elementor as an example, you've got the Elementor free and then you've got Pro and the various different licenses for that. Now, to me, I can imagine one of the biggest resource sucks when it comes to Elementor free are people that are using it that don't understand it potentially, or they just have issues for whatever reason. And then there's a million questions. Just take a look at a lot of the different groups, not specifically the official Elementor group. And I'm just using Elementor as an example. But I've always been of the mindset that if you've got this free version and part of what you're charging for when you get to the paid version is support, chances are you probably need less support for the paid people longer term than you will for the abundance of free people that come on board. So I was always in the mindset, it's like, make the plugin free. And like I said, I'm not talking about every plugin. This isn't a carte blanche sort of everything, one size fits all. But make that plugin free. And then you make your support a ticketed system. So if you don't need support, you can use a community forum if you want to. That's fine, and you may get an answer, you may not. But if you want official support, make a ticketed system that you can buy tickets. So if you want a one-off, $10, for example. You've got a problem, you might have a couple of questions that you need answered. Well, it's $10. If you think, okay, I might need a little bit of support with this, well, you can pay for multiple tickets. And you can say, well, for 10 tickets, it's, I don't know, $29, whatever, I don't know. Just throwing numbers out of my hat at the moment. But this, in my opinion, would make it that people that have the free version are less of a resource hog, that when you do supply support to them, they're paying for that support. Whereas when you get free and they expect the support to be the same level as the paid version, there's that disconnect there. And it also means that I think a lot of the time that the paid version of that plugin has to be more expensive to cater for the resources that have been put in to the free version. The money has to come from somewhere to be able to pay the developers and the support and all those kinds of things. Just a point of view. What do you think? Do you think I'm talking rubbish? There we go. Even Phil's thinking the same thing. I thought this for a long time. It's just after creating, let me give you an example of where I'm coming from with this. After creating videos for the last, I think 7 or 8 years now doing this, you also get a lot of questions and people go like, oh, this is cool. Can you create a video on X? Create a video on how to build a full affiliate website using a theme and hosting and everything else. But could you do that by tomorrow? And yeah, sure. It's nice that you ask. I mean, not always ask in a very polite way. Sometimes it can be abrupt. But we'll just say that might be lost in translation with different, language, non-native English speakers and so on, which is totally understandable. But it's kind of one of those things, like, I don't think people realize how much time and effort there is taken up just from one person like myself trying to answer the questions that come up on a video that I release. And at the moment, I've got like over 900 videos. So you can imagine how many questions I get asked. And then I'll have emails sent through to me going, big fan of your channel. Can you answer this very long-winded question here and tell me what's the best thing to do? And it's like, I literally don't have the time to be able to sit down, research that question and potentially answer it. So I mean, when it comes to the Facebook group, I've got a godsend. I've got some amazing people as part of the WPTuts Facebook group. Els is fantastic on there, and she fields and answers tons of questions, and she's an absolute godsend. But I think people don't necessarily understand, because I think everybody feels like it's only their question and their problem that they're putting out there, and not necessarily the 5,000 other people that all have a different problem, and they all want answers to their problem. But it's kind of like support to me in any format, whether it's me supporting by answering questions on my videos, or support like Nicholas when he's involved in the sort of the Facebook group, or anybody else is involved in these kinds of things. It is a massive, massive, massive undertaking to know enough to be able to answer people authoritatively. You know, the answer you're giving them is correct. You know, it makes sense, and you're helping them. And I think if you are creating a product and you're putting a free version out there, I think it's unrealistic to long-term support that product and give support for all the questions, the queries, and the bug reports, and all those things, and the frustrated people that it didn't do this when you expected to do that, all those kinds of things. That doesn't come for free. And I think we need to be understanding of that and realize that if you have a free product, somewhere down the line, you should have to pay if you want support. If you want to use the plugin or theme or whatever it is, and you're happy to go and do whatever you want with it, and it's down to you, happy days. You don't have to pay anything for that product. But if you do need support because it's not making sense or whatever, then I think it's not unrealistic to consider a simple paid ticket system that helps people, you know, get access to support, but they're paying for it, and they're helping support the free product and the development of the paid product. And if they want to move on to a paid product because they don't want to pay for the support, well, they can move on to that and they get the best of both worlds. You know, like I say, I'm just throwing an idea out there, but I think it's one of those things that I think a lot more companies maybe need to consider when they have a free version of a product that they want to put out there, that has to be, there has to be a payment somewhere down the line, because you can't expect everything for free. And if you want the free support, that's where the open Facebook groups, but then you are at the risk of misinformation, not getting an answer, or anything else that kind of goes with it. We see lots of times, you know, a question will be asked, and then 2 days later, the poster will come and go, oh, is anybody going to ask me? I thought it was official support forum. It's like, no, it's not official support forum. It's a community-driven forum where lots of people spend their time to be able to help and support you, but they're not being paid for it. So anyway, just an interesting thing. You can add donation links. I totally agree. But it's one of those things that I think there's probably only a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage, and I can't imagine it coming anywhere close to, you know, paying back the amount of time and effort that you put into, you know, creating this product, supporting the product, and so on. Anyway, let's have a little look at what we've got when I sort of talk about this. Okay, I lost on that. Interesting business model from John. It is an interesting business model, but I think it's one that needs to be explored a little bit. Also a very interesting point, Greg. The problem with charging per ticket price for support is that you then have to actually provide support. Support most WordPress plugins is awful. I agree. You know, support can be a little bit problematic for sure. I mean, where did I see about it? I'm pretty sure that years ago that I was using a theme that I bought on Envato, and the support had run out, and I'm pretty sure that you could go to the support for the actual theme itself, their forum, it's a sort of support forum, and you could pay, and I think that was like $10 to fast track your question. And while no, it certainly wasn't overnight support, it was also one of those things, because I was using this with clients' projects, it was one of those things. It's like I'm happy to pay for that $10, $15, and maybe a couple of times, so I can get that problem solved, and I can have the site doing whatever I needed to do. It was worth it and I'd already paid for the software as well. It was just one of those things. It's like, okay, if that's what you're going to do when you get gold level support, should we say, you jump the queue, whatever it is. Sometimes I think having that option is worthwhile. If it's a free product, I do think it's also important to have something like that in place. Nicholas agrees. So Mike Echo, agree, awesome idea. Thank you very much. Jason, it's such a delicate balance that is more like a nebula. All changes daily. Either way, the whole discussion of these topics is priceless. Well, I hope so. And that's the thing. It's like, would this idea work for every product and every business out there in the WordPress ecosystem? No, probably not. But if it means that we open discussion up to different ideas and, we kind of plant those seeds that maybe there are other ways of looking at how we provide support, I think it's something that needs to be looked at to provide a better level of service and also allow the businesses to scale. If you're at the point where you're getting inundated with support requests, then at least it gives you the money to scale, and proportionally. If you're getting 10 requests a day, well, one person could probably handle it. If you're getting 10,000 requests a day, you're probably going to have a bigger team, but at least you're going to have money coming in off the back of those questions, that at least helps support and pay for that support, as it were. But like I say, it's a question, it's a conversation. I don't know. As Nicholas says, providing support is really expensive. You've got to think, when it comes to support, it's one of those areas that they're not creating a product to return revenue. The product's already been sold, and the developers behind that, they're the ones that are helping create that product, shape that product, move it forward. So this is a tangible connection to the product, which helps sell it because it gets new features and so on. Whereas support is kind of like, can be ongoing forevermore. So that person may have bought that $49 plugin, but they may have support questions every day for the next 365 days. Was their ROI on that $49 justified and validated? No. But this is where I suppose you strike the balance between that one person that requires total hand-holding the entire way compared to people like yourselves or myself, which you may never ever use support because you either find the question on Facebook or you work your way through it and you figure it out. We don't cost them anything. We just pure profit once the product's been sold, and we continue purchasing our license every single year. So swings and roundabouts, but support is one of those areas that where people ask me, have you ever thought of creating your own product? WordPress plugin or something like that. Two things. One, I don't really have an idea that I think I would really want a plugin to do that. Not yet, anyway. You never know, that might change. But the second thing is, I wouldn't want to support that for the next however many years. It's bad enough where you've got to answer questions on videos you create for free. Don't take that as a negative thing, but when it's like hundreds of bloody things coming in, it does get a little bit sort of like, I don't know what to do, there's too many questions. But having to support a product that people have paid for like that could be incredibly overwhelming very, very quickly. It's interesting. Phil, we get about 2 tickets a week on our premium theme, and it's on thousands of sites. Well, that's pretty cool to know. You've either done a really good job or you just don't answer your tickets. I'm just joking, Phil. But yeah, the complexity of the product is going to be indicative to the number of questions you get. I would have thought a theme, especially when you've got a relatively simple theme. I'm not saying Phil's is like that, I'm just saying in general. There's probably be a lot less technical questions coming in than something like Elementor or Bricks or something like that, where you've got a much more complex tool to sort of maintain. Aidan, thanks very much for joining in. And like I say, hopefully you do catch up on the live stream later. If you've got any comments, drop them in the comment section afterwards. Okay, so I'm conscious that I've got about 5 more minutes before we sort of start wrapping things up. So I'm going to take a look at one of the questions and comments we've got here, and I will do my best to answer what I can. Good question. Pay for support might mean that people actually do some research first so the quality of questions improve. A very, very good point, Alan. That is something I do think, though, that Facebook is its own worst enemy when it comes to this, because Facebook, well, you've got the search on there. Yes, you can use search. It's bloody awful. You know, if you're still working with being involved in forums years ago, at least that was logical. You know, you could easily keep track of what's going on. But you go to Facebook and it's just like, try to find and probably that's one thing that really pisses me right off with it, is if you're on your phone and you are reading something and you think, oh, I'll come back to that in a moment. You just like minimize the app or, you know, turn your phone off kind of thing, as in like just shut the screen down, come back, open Facebook back up, it's gone. It's not there anymore. And you'll never bloody find that post again, because it's been hidden 4,000 posts down, and no matter what you search for, you'll never find it. So I think when it comes to offering kind of like support via groups via Facebook, I just think inherently it's a bloody awful experience. Whoever did the UI UX for Facebook should be just taken outside and fired, because they're an idiot. Yeah, but that's what we're paying for, especially for a good reason, for recurring and annual licenses. But this isn't so much, if we're still on the same track, this isn't what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the paid for, when you pay for the license. I'm talking about when you are using the free version. If you have questions and want technical support, then I'm talking about the paid ticketing system. So if we're on the same page there, that's what I meant. If we're not, just ignore me. Yeah. And I think most of us would as well. You'd be happy to pay for support if you thought the quality and speed of support was there. And this is the thing. If there was a guarantee that you would have an answer in 24 hours, for example, you'd pay. Because you think, okay, 24 hours, I can live with that. I've got a project, I'm stuck on this one, but this isn't working properly. But I can pay $10 and I can come back tomorrow and I should have an answer there for me. If it's like 7 days down the line, I would totally agree. Then it's like, I'm not paying for something that's that bloody poor. You wouldn't order your food and then come back 3 days later when it's stone cold. Anyway. Okay, what else do we have? Yep, exactly. Facebook search is terrible. Facebook itself is bloody terrible. Anyway. Cito, show us your advanced theme or setup. I will at some point, but they just updated 2.5 yesterday, I think it was. And now, because they brought a new feature in, I found that some of the things that I had enabled are not enabled anymore. So I have to go back in and tweak those to get them back and take a look at the new features they brought in. But to be honest, my setup for advanced theme is very, very simplistic. I didn't really do... I just enhanced the interface more than anything. But I will be showing it as part of my free mini course. Speaking of which, let me just open this up, because if you are a Bricks user, let me just see if I can, there we go. I have the sign up for a free mini course. You can just head over to the learnbricksbuilder.com website, go to the courses, or you can just take a look on the homepage because there's a big red banner across the top. And all you need to do is go and register your interest, and there'll be a free course coming out, hopefully in the next month or so, showing you how to kind of fast track building a simple kind of website design and the processes that I use. So it's going to cover these key points, so you can see exactly what kind of thing I cover. And all you need to do is just pop your name and your email address in by clicking the button at the top of the screen. And I will keep you up to date then and let you know as soon as it's released. And then you'll get full free access to it. There's no cost for it, nothing at all. Everything inside there is going to be totally accessible. So if you want to sign up for that, please do. It'd be great to have you on board as soon as that's released and get part of that. So that's totally free mini course that's coming out relatively soon on Bricks and how to build faster with it. Anyway, okay. Yeah, maybe this is why LTT still has their forums. That's Linus Tech Tips, if anybody doesn't know, which is a tech channel on YouTube. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. If you've enjoyed today's live stream, be sure to give it a thumbs up because it does absolutely help. I released a video today on Bricks and how to work with ACF and customize and sort all of your dates and things like that out, which sounds boring, but it's actually incredibly useful and a pretty nifty little trick that allows you to do a lot of really cool things when it comes to dynamic dates and things like that that are being pulled in from advanced custom fields, and you want to format them in the way that you want to make them all look nice and pretty. Check that out. That's today's video up on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining in today. I will be live again next Thursday. I'm pretty sure then next Thursday. Then the following week I probably won't be. Yeah, so thanks very much for joining in today. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. I hope you've enjoyed having some of the questions answered and the different topics we talked about. It's always a pleasure to spend a little bit of time with you guys. And I will see you next week. And like I say, plenty more tutorials coming out next week. Be sure to get involved in the conversation on the Facebook group, join me on Twitter, or just sign up for my free Bricks Builder course to be kept up to date as soon as that is released. Anyway, have a fantastic rest of your day wherever you are. Keep safe, keep warm, and look after yourselves. And I'll see you all super, super soon.